RIMS is global. Discover why 10,000 of your peers in more than 60 countries are part of the world's largest risk management community. Visit rims.org/membership to find the best membership for you and your organization. Coming to you from RIMS headquarters in New York, this is RIMScast, the official podcast of the Risk and Insurance Management Society. I am Justin Smulison, Business Content Manager here at RIMS, and your proud RIMScast host. This is episode 381, and we will review the results of the RIMS 2025 Compensation Survey with Kristen Peed and John Kline. But first, let's talk about virtual workshops, starting with the RIMS CRMP on March 17th and 18th. RIMS will align with a firm for a 2-day RIMS CRMP Fed exam prep course. The next RIMS CRMP exam prep course will be April 21st and 22nd, and then again June 9th and 10th. Links to registration are on this episode's notes. On to virtual workshops. On April 15th, we have a virtual workshop covering emerging risks, and that will be led by our good friend Joseph Mayo. Register today and strengthen your risk knowledge. RIMS members always enjoy deep discounts on the virtual workshops. And we've got RIMS webinars coming up. On March 12th, our good friends from Global Risk Consultants return. Their session is Don't Waste the Soft Market, Where to Reinvest Insurance Savings Before the Window Closes. And folks, we had to reschedule the Hard Hats and High Stakes webinar that was scheduled for March 6th. Registrants should have received an email about the rescheduling, and we will soon confirm the new date. Hopefully it will be toward the end of March. Register for these and other webinars by visiting rims.org/webinars and the links on this episode's show notes. We've got some more plugs coming up later. Let's get on with the show. We are delighted to be joined by RIMS Ex Officio, Kristen Peed, and RIMS Board Chair John Kline to discuss the findings of the RIMS 2025 Compensation Survey. This biannual survey provides detailed compensation analysis by virtually all risk management positions, as well as the impact that education, experience, and other demographic data have on salaries. The report also provides data about risk management reporting structures, team size, benefits, and additional cash compensation programs. It's a North American study, and there are some positive trends that we're going to explore with Kristen and John, so let's get to it. Kristen Peed, John Kline, welcome to RIMScast. It is such a pleasure to see you both. Now, Kristen, you've been on the show a couple of times, once as president, and then at least once, to discuss our advocacy efforts. How is your first year as ex officio been?
It's been great. I will say I haven't seen the inside of airports as often, which has been really a welcome change, to be honest with you. I was on 98 flights last year. So
Wow.
Being able to be home for the entire month of February and just focus on my day job was really awesome.
That's got to be great. So that's 196 less disposable masks that you needed. Yeah, I did that math real quick, right?
Yeah, well done.
And John, you've been on some of our sponsored episodes, but this is the first time that you're here on the public episode. How are you?
I'm doing well today. Thanks very much. It was a nice sunny Friday here in Chicago. We're going to break 60 degrees, which everybody's going to be in, shorts and a sweatshirt today.
Rubbing it in, because here in New York, we're still a little frosty. All right. And John, you're on our board, right?
Absolutely. It's a great team of people. I've been on the board now for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great leadership to help the organization and all of our members. It's a privilege to serve.
Terrific. And the two of you have known each other for years.
Yes. We go back for a while. So yeah, absolutely.
So that's why it was so important for us to have you both discuss the compensation survey's results, because aside from the fact that you know each other, you might have opposing views on some things, and that's fine. That's what we're here for. But also, since you have a vested interest in RIMS and the future of the profession and the success of the profession, we thought it would be great to just kind of review some of the high-level points of the survey, which is available through the link on this episode's show notes. So you ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay. So the median base salary for U.S. risk professionals is now $160,000 and $140,000 in Canada. Now, both of those figures are up steadily over the past decade and since the last survey in 2023. That's great news. I think we could all agree on that, right?
For sure.
Common ground. So from your vantage point as board members, as ex officio, as longtime practitioners, what does this sustained growth signal about the strategic value of risk management today?
Well, I would see the sustained salary growth as kind of a clear signal that risk management has moved from really a support function to really one of a strategic function. So organizations aren't just paying for insurance placement. We're no longer procurement anymore. They're paying us for our insight, our foresight, our decision support. And over the last decade, risk professionals have been pulled directly into conversations around cyber resilience, around operational continuity, regulatory exposure, capital strategy, and also reputation. So those are board level issues. And when compensation grows steadily over time and not just in spikes, it reflects the recognition that good risk management is necessary to protect enterprise value and enable smarter growth. So, in other words, what I'm seeing is that the market isn't saying that risk leaders, we aren't cost managers anymore. We're people that are really protecting the value of our organizations and creating that value as well.
Excellent. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Kristen just said, but I also think as the industry, we have gotten to be more and more professional. So this is something that RIMS has worked on for a number of years. How do we get the people in this profession to be treated as professionals, like an attorney, like an accountant, and not somebody back in procurement?
Right.
And I think there's recognition of that. And quite honestly, I think a lot of it is the practitioners, they've really upped their own game. They've become much more technically competent, not saying they were incompetent, but they have really increased their technical knowledge. They have done that from participating in further professional development. And, to Kristen's point, they are becoming more involved at an executive level at corporations, as well as they're becoming more involved in the industry. They are taking roles on advisory groups at insurance companies and brokers. They're getting to be active participants. And then our management recognizes that, these individuals, they represent the company and they do a very good job of it. So I think it's a combination, better technical skills, greater recognition, which allows them to have that seat at the table that Kristen said. So I think it's really a host of many, many things.
Yes. Now, recently I had Cynthia Garcia on the show. She's the chief risk officer for Bernard's construction company out in California. And I'm seeing more folks like her join me on the show who have the coveted chief risk officer role. We can't all be James Lamb. There's more James Lambs out there now, right? So with more chief risk officers and VPs of risk management in the U.S., now reporting a median salary of $245,000, which is up dramatically from 2023, it seems like that supports your point that the market's catching up with the importance of risk professionals, especially senior level risk professionals. Do you feel like that's also indicative of a structural shift in how organizations view ERM or enterprise risk leadership?
I actually think it's both. I think it's both structural and corrected, but I think it's more structural. Like part of it is market catch up. We took on a lot more responsibilities. I know that when I moved into my role at Sequoia, I really upped my game. Leadership was coming to me and tapping me for things that I never thought I would actually get to experience. And so those were things that really helped from a structural perspective, increase my responsibilities and therefore shift my title into that coveted CRO role. But I think some of it is that the CRO role has really matured. The risk leaders are expected to really look at enterprise risk, look at insurance strategy, figure out capital efficiency, look at governance, and how can you help your business be more resilient. So, we're now advising the CEOs. I report directly to our CEO. I work directly with our CFO, our CISO, all of those things. So I'm not just managing programs anymore. I'm being really integrated into the decision-making process. And I will say that level of influence really requires judgment and credibility and the ability to lead cross-functionally. And that's what the compensation reflects.
Yeah.
I don't really actually see it reverting back either. I see it stabilizing at higher levels as those expectations remain elevated of us.
And Kristen, how many risk managers report to you, or how many in the risk group?
I actually have 20. I think there's 21 people total between my two teams.
That's almost a full football team right there.
Yeah.
So, there you go. John, what's your take on this?
I think it's an evolution in recognition. Having been in the industry for a number of years, I think people that sit in our chairs, we probably understand the company as well as anybody else.
Yeah.
We have to, part of our job is to look at all the nooks and crannies, understand everything, whether or not it's a property exposure, a premises, a product, or, as Kristen said, a reputational for our directors and officers liability. We get engaged in areas and emissions, cyber. We have really become part of the team that understands holistically, and that's the term I use in my organization, that I look at risk holistically. While I want to support a single business unit in a country, I do, but I can't go down to their level because my job is a holding company. So I think the compensation and the responsibility continue to catch up with one another. I think one area that I would probably disagree a little bit, corporate risk, we probably need to carve out operational and enterprise and maybe insurable, because depending on your organization, if you work at a bank, you have credit risk, you have capital risk. There are a lot of other risks that we don't own. And quite honestly, we don't have the skill sets either. So I think you also need to look at Justin by industry. The CRO, risk manager, whatever the title is going to encompass different things. So I think the taxonomy, when we're having discussions like this, we probably need to focus on the operational and enterprise and insurable risk, and just go ahead and carve out that we don't get into the credit risk, the capital risk, the liquidity risk.
Yeah. And John, how many risk professionals report on up to you?
Oh, wow. So I am a team of one.
Oh, no, you're not.
But that's on an org chart. So let's talk about that a little bit. I've had teams as large as 20 or 25.
Okay.
In my current role, I'm one person. But for anybody in our position, we have to have good communication skills, and we have to have a lot of support. And when I say support, I can't do what I do by myself.
Right.
I network within the organization. I have contacts throughout the organization. I have my outside business partners. And by the way, I really want them to be partners. I want us to be shoulder to shoulder and walking together. And to me, that's a little bit different from collaboration, because somebody collaborating may step back.
Yeah.
I want somebody to stand beside me. So when you start looking at that, Justin, it's probably more, I'm probably back up to that team of 20 or 25 people. Yes, I have a very busy day and I have to prioritize. But if you want to go far, as they say, you go together.
Yeah.
And that's really my point of view.
I think that leadership without that direct authority is actually such a critical skill. To John's point is, of companies in the past, I was also a team of one. And, you learn how to direct people when you don't have the actual authority over them, but like collaborating with them, communicating well. These are all things that are critical to that skill set. And I will say, a CRO is just a title, and titles vary greatly across corporations. And just because I have the CRO title, that doesn't mean that what I do is any more important than somebody who might be a director of risk management, because functions are so, different across different companies per John's, thing that he was talking about with regards to banks and different kinds of companies and responsibilities. So good point, John, there.
Folks, we're going to take a quick break. And since we're talking about survey results, if you're into surveys, you are in luck. RIMS is pleased to once again support the FIRMA Global Risk Manager Survey 2026. Now in its second consecutive global edition, the survey led by FIRMA brings together insights from Europe, the US, Latin America, Asia Pacific, and Africa, offering a truly international perspective on how the risk management profession is evolving. Surveys are anonymous and the final report is free. The deadline to participate is March 31st. A link is on this episode's show notes. And folks, we got to talk about Riskworld. Riskworld 2026 will be held May 3rd through the 6th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Riskworld attracts more than 10,000 risk professionals from across the globe. It's time to connect, cultivate, and collaborate with them. Booth sales are open now. General registration and speaker registration is also open right now. And marketplace and hospitality badges are now available. Links are on this episode's show notes, and be sure to check out rims.org for more information. And folks, the second annual RIMS Texas Regional Conference will be held in San Antonio, August 10th through the 12th. The call for submissions for educational sessions is open through March 18th. Check out the link on this episode's show notes and make a pitch. Hopefully you get selected and we see you in San Antonio. And the RIMS Western Regional Conference will be held October 4th through the 7th in Seattle, Washington. Registration is open and you can also submit a session. Visit rimswesternregional.com and the link on this episode's show notes for more information. We will have more plugs later. And now let's return to our interview with John Kline and Kristen Peed. And we're back with Kristen Peed and John Kline. And we're talking about the RIMS 2025 compensation survey. And there's so much great insight in there. We're not going to go through every single page. That is for the reader to do. It is available through rims.org and the link on this episode's show notes. But we want to call out some of the bigger numbers and data points that we think would resonate with the audience. And so let's jump right back into it. Nearly all respondents, 97% in the US and 90% in Canada, perform functions beyond risk management, including insurance, claims, business continuity, compliance, and even ESG. Is compensation keeping pace with the expanding scope and complexity of the role? John, let's start with you.
Boy, you asked me, do I ever get paid enough? I'm going to answer that question a little bit differently. I feel I'm fairly compensated.
Okay.
And I really think that's the key point. Now, I actually enjoy getting involved in multiple areas. Kristen said several times insurance procurement. I chafe when somebody says, "Oh, you procure insurance."
Right.
Yeah, that's a big piece of what I do, but I bring a lot of other value to the organization also. Getting involved in many of the things that you talked about. And actually, I enjoy doing those things because that helps my own professional development. And it also brings, some variety to my job. So whether or not I'm responsible for business continuity, I work very closely with them to help them quantify, make sure they understand it. Because I need to know that for my insurance renewals, right? A number of years ago, I was responsible for the ergonomics program of Bank of America, at the time one of the largest employers in California.
The ergonomics program.
Yes.
So how you sit and whether you're taking enough breaks to make sure that your back isn't hunched over and you don't get carpal tunnel?
You got that right. And I can tell you back then, people, they were in the office and they were doing crazy things, sitting at the desk. You had cash vaults. And that was an education for me. I had a wonderful team, but I really enjoyed that because it was something a little bit out of the box for me.
Yeah.
But it was a natural feed into what I did to drive down workers' compensation claims. So, I would encourage people, to take those opportunities. And, one thing I heard years ago, and it still resonates with me, you ought to change your job every 2 years. No, I'm not saying you need to go and get a different job.
Right.
But if you're doing your job 2 years from now, the same job exactly the way you're doing it today, you're not growing, you're not developing it. And
so it's title and skill set.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I mean, I've been in the same job at one point almost 17 years. I can tell you every year what I did was entirely different. And I had the same title for 17 years. Okay. Right. But every 2 years, I remade what I did. So, that's the other item I would encourage people to do. And also, again, it shows the recognition of the increase in compensation and increased responsibility.
Yeah. Kristen, what do you think?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a really unique position at Sequoia. I'm not sure that what I do exists anywhere else at any other company. I actually have the opportunity to work in underwriting, risk management for my company, and brokerage. So, at Sequoia, I sit there as the internal risk manager. That was what I was originally brought on for. But I also have the opportunity to oversee a team of underwriters and claims professionals that work on the workers' compensation and employment practices liability that go into our PEO captive. And so, doing underwriting and claims and learning all about that was really fun. And then about a year ago, I had the opportunity to take over the leadership of our property and casualty brokerage team. And so that's the brokerage side. So, I get to see all three facets of this industry sitting in one role, which is really incredible. And to John's point, like doing something different, learning something new. And because of these experiences I've had, now I get to sit in on strategic decisions about opening new companies that my founder and the CEO of our company is always doing. So right now we're getting ready to open up yet another company. And, I'm part of that leadership team looking at that and how are we going to scale this? And it's not just insurance decisions. It's not like what coverage do we need to put in place? It's around kind of how do we do this business? How do we scale this properly? How do we stay in compliance and have the right governance? So, to John's point, look for opportunities to raise your hands because expanding that skill set will help support your, position that, hey, here's the salary survey from RIMS this year. Here's the buckets that I fall into, and here's where I think I land. And that can really be a nice tool for you to use with your leadership when you're going through the merit cycle.
As we look further into the survey, the top industry impacts cited include attracting new candidates, cyber exposure, adoption of new technologies, here's the big buzzword, AI, and hybrid work shifts. Now, given that the median age of U.S. professionals is 51, do you feel that we are facing a succession challenge? Let's just start with the easy one. Yay or nay to that one?
I think a big yes on that front.
Yep.
So, let me kind of kick that off because I'm probably closer to retirement than Kristen. I've been doing this for a number of years.
Yeah.
I think succession planning and talent retention absolutely within this industry have got to be the number one.
Yeah.
You see different write-ups. They're estimating the next 5 years, you're going to have over 350,000 people retire. Right now, over 50% of the industry is over the age of 55. Guys, this is huge.
Yeah.
And, with that, you're going to lose a tremendous amount of intellectual capital, experience. But at the same time, what a wonderful opportunity for somebody to get into the business, because you're going to have this large group of professionals retiring in the next 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's just going to open up all types of opportunity for people in their 30s now and their 40s that, it's probably never existed before. So, I really think that is probably the number one challenge for the industry. And those people are going to learn those skill sets. And, and I think there's a lot this industry has to offer. I mean, wide range of roles. There's a huge opportunity for growth. It touches so many different areas of the organization. And I'm going to throw out a word here that people may not agree with: stability.
Stability.
And it's like, stability? I see people getting rifted all the time. But you know what? People are going to need a risk professional, because the uncertainty in this world is only increasing. The speed of change is getting faster and faster. So, they're going to need somebody like us. You just need to make sure your organization knows you're the person they want, and not looking over your shoulder to find somebody else.
Yeah. Now, Kristen, you were our 2025 president here at RIMS. What were you hearing from employers about what they're doing to future-proof the pipeline? What were some innovative strategies or things that stand out?
Yeah, I would say I don't think that the risk is actually necessarily a talent shortage. I think that the appetite is there. We see students coming in from Spencer Education Foundation, and they're doing a great job recruiting into our industry. I think what we really need to keep our eye on is this knowledge transfer, and making sure that we're training this next generation. So the solution just isn't recruiting, it's really the development. And so making sure you're bringing that next generation to the Risk World Conference so they understand how business is done, so that they're developing those relationships. We shouldn't just be focused on those late stage people in their careers like John and I. I'm closer to retirement than John probably thinks, but it's making sure that they come and that they
gray hair, you don't.
That's because I get it colored every 8 weeks. So, risk isn't a back office role anymore. It's out there on the front lines, and we need to make sure that we're treating that next generation of those who are going to step into our shoes as that, and that we're, making sure that we're budgeting to bring them to conferences, that we're including them in those meetings, in those opportunities to, be strategic and teach them how to do those things. If we don't transfer that knowledge, we risk losing that judgment. So it's not a headcount issue. It's really that knowledge transfer issue.
We will take one more quick break because I want to tell you a little bit more about my friends at the Spencer Educational Foundation. I want to tell you about the openings and the deadlines for various Spencer Educational Foundation grants. The Risk Manager on Campus application period will open April 1st, 2026, and it will close on June 30th. Grant awardees, colleges and universities are typically notified in September. Now let's talk about course development grants. The application deadline for interval number 2 will be on June 15th, 2026, and award notifications will be sent out in late July. General grants will open on May 1st, and the application deadline is July 30th. And internship grant applications open on August 15th and close on October 15th. Links to each of these grants are on this episode's show notes. And of course, you can visit spencered.org for more information. And now let's conclude our interview with John Kline and Kristen Peed. So back to the survey, 79% of U.S. professionals were eligible for additional cash compensation with performance, especially organizational performance, driving the most payouts. Is this an appropriate incentive program? Is that sort of thing something that you would recommend, or is there another way to go about it?
I think that there's a number of different ways. And obviously, linking compensation to organizational performance makes sense. But, risk doesn't exist in a vacuum, and we have to make sure we're careful not to only reward like short-term results. So I'm fortunate that, I'm eligible for a couple of different ones. So I have short-term incentives that are on an annual basis, but then I'm also graded on long-term incentives, which are over several years. And so it gives me time to really put in play things that I am doing that will impact the organization, not in the short term, but in the long term, and put together more of a strategic plan. I don't know that a lot of organizations have evolved to that point where they're doing both short-term incentives and bonuses as well as long-term. But I think that is a way that we could really help to incentivize risk professionals to make organizational impact and permeate it throughout the enterprise. We shouldn't only reward success. We need to make sure that we're rewarding something that's far more overarching than just that 1 year of,
Right.
performance.
But maybe hearkening back to what John said, reward stability.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, no, I agree with Kristen, and I think this is part of the evolution of the profession. I've got base compensation, short-term incentives, and long-term incentives I've had for years, and it really helps you get alignment with management for the long-term success of the organization. Because I think most of us, we could save money on any given year, but we've got to look at stability for our programs, whatever that program may be, whether it be an insurance program, an ERM program, an operational risk program. Management does not like wide fluctuations. So it forces us to think strategically, think like an owner, think like the CEO, the C-suite. And I also think it helps develop the stability, not only in the corporate side, but also on the broking side and the carrier side. I mean, carriers for years, especially in the reinsurance industry, they've got like 5-10 year incentives because it takes that long for reinsurance contracts to really determine if they're profitable or unprofitable.
Right.
So I think this continues to be the evolution of the industry to better align us with long-term objectives of the C-suite.
See, now that's a fascinating viewpoint because we are operating and functioning in a world where information's at our fingertips and it's changing every single day, if not every hour. So there is I want to say a slow and steady wins the race sort of philosophy that we have to employ. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know about Kristen, but if I have wild fluctuations year to year, now, if it's a shock loss, I can explain that.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a death by 1,000 cuts and I haven't kept them apprised of it, and that happens 1, 2, 3 years, management's not going to like that. And
Sure.
I mean, I'm not doing my job.
Right. Now, before I let you go, I want to get your risk philosophies on a couple of things, especially since you have, like we're saying, we're talking about the knowledge transfer. And John is a Department of One now on paper, but he works with several others. Kristen, have you ever been a Department of One?
I have. My
You-
last role, I was a Department of
You're
One.
a Department of One. So what strategies can you provide for risk professionals who may also be a Department of One or have very limited resources? Let's just start there.
I think that maybe recognizing what your resources might be is the first place to start, because you may have more resources at your fingertips than you realize. First of all, your brokers are going to be a great resource for you to help you with tools that they may have, and really function as a back office for you. In addition, the carrier partners that you have as well may have additional tools. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about RIMS and our website and all of the tools and information that you can find at your fingertips there, as well as, Engage, which is our social media platform where you can reach out to other risk professionals to get their advice. I think that our industry is one of the greatest industries when it comes to collaboration and knowledge sharing. So I know if I'm having an issue with something, I can call John up or text him or send him an email and say, hey, I'm facing this issue. Have you had something like this in the past, or what is your recommendation? So even though you may be a Department of One, you are not alone. You have an entire community behind you to support you and make sure that you're successful and have the answers that you need.
And let me just remind everybody before I hand it over to John, RIMS Engage is exclusive for RIMS members. So that is one of the many benefits of a RIMS membership. John, what would you like to add to that sentiment?
Oh, I agree with everything Kristen said. I'm going to add a few other ones. You need to understand who your key stakeholders are too, because those are the people he or she are going to support you. Also, you got to set realistic expectations. I mean, I'm a team of one, and I I answered the email yesterday. Somebody's chased me down for something from January. And I just said, sorry, it fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
But I've been working with this guy for over a year. He said, no problem.
Right.
So, you have to set expectations, and you have to have a plan. You make a plan, you work the plan. You just can't come in every day and go, well, what am I going to do today? You better have a plan for what you're going to do, because I can guarantee you something during the day is going to upset that plan. And communicate. I don't want to be known as a black box, because what Kristen and I do, people say, John, I don't understand what you do. Let's have a cup of coffee, and, I have to communicate what I do. It's kind of like that old-fashioned elevator speech, right?
Yeah.
So I think those are the other ways I would enhance what Kristen said. And that's true with regardless of the size of the department too. But especially for a small team, if you have 1, 2, or 3 people. Yeah.
I'd also like to, we'll do a quick plug. I know Kristen will back me up on this. I'm pretty sure John will too. The RIMS CRMP is a great way to enhance your knowledge. And if you are a department of one, if you can pass that RIMS CRMP exam and get all 5 modules down, you will have the capacity of several risk professionals.
I would totally agree with that. I would say credentials don't replace your experience, but they help you compound it faster.
Sure.
So I would say don't collect credentials, but the RIMS CRMP one is one that is just incredibly valuable. It can really help accelerate your knowledge and close that gap of what you don't know yet. And that's, risk management is really a profession, though, where judgment compounds over time. You earn that credibility by seeing, market cycles, by going through claim scenarios, by having failures and then recovering from them as well.
Yeah.
I think important credentials like the RIMS CRMP and the new RIMS CRO, it shows you dedicated to the industry, because these are not easy certifications to get.
Right.
And it also not only shows you dedication, but it provides instant credibility, because again, these are not easy certifications to pass. And when you can put that on your signature line, all of a sudden you're differentiating yourself from not only your peers, but also from your brokers, your carriers, and you're also letting them know that, I'm doing something to further my education.
Sure.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Excellent. And so we're going to see you both at Risk World 2026 in Philadelphia, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, you're omnipresent at Risk World. I only know Risk Worlds with John Kline and Kristen Peed there. I did want to also ask you a fun question. We recently had 2025 Goodell Award winner Randy Nornes on the show. He was on the show last week, and he said something that resonated with me, and I just thought it'd be fun to throw it out there and riff a little with you. He said he can't stand the word risk, even though he's made his career on it. He prefers the word uncertainty. Because risk has sort of a negative connotation, at least in his line of work. Would you agree with that? Would you like a different word other than uncertainty? Floor's yours. Sorry about
bring up how our chief legal officer has a saying, like when we're talking about risk management and all that stuff. We have a phrase that's called "nothing bad happens." And that's not to say that we're not going to have any mistakes or anything that comes along, but we have been prepared for it. We have a playbook, or we have practiced it. So I would say that maybe, we don't talk about risk necessarily. We talk about nothing bad happening and how do we close the gaps? How do we mitigate against those things? So that's our saying at Sequoia.
Nothing bad happens. John?
Nothing bad happens.
Yeah. I think that falls in the category that this is an opportunity. I can understand Randy's position. I mean, I've known Randy for a long time, another fellow Chicago risk professional.
Yep.
And going back to my comment that you come in Friday morning and you have your day planned out. Well, guess what? Something happened. Was it bad? Don't know. But, it may be water damage in an office. It may be a new liability suit. It may be a professional liability matter. So, I think people understand what a risk is. And we're really getting in taxonomy here. To say I deal with uncertainty, I don't know. I mean, am I going to the boat over the weekend to, hit the tables or something? To me, that's uncertainty. But I respect Randy, but I still like that we're in the risk business rather than the uncertainty business.
All right. Well, there you have it. Well, John, Kristen, it has been wonderful to reconnect with you. I can't wait to see you again in 2 months. 2 months from today, because today is definitely March 3rd and it's not a week before. And so we'll see you at Risk World. The RIMS 2025 compensation survey is available now. The links are on this episode's show notes. There's different tiers to access. And I've got links to John's appearances on RIMScast. I've got links to Kristen's appearances on RIMScast and her CRMP story on here as well. And it is just such a pleasure to see you and to be able to pick your brains on this topic. Special thanks again to Kristen Peed and John Kline for joining us to discuss the results of the 2025 RIMS Risk Management Compensation Survey. Members have the added benefit of receiving the survey results for free. The cost is $500 for non-members. A link is on this episode's show notes. I've also got links to Kristen Peed's prior RIMScast appearance and her RIMS CRMP story. Look for both of them at Risk World 2026 in Philadelphia, May 3rd through the 7th. And now I want to speak about a topic near and dear to my heart, sponsorships. You can sponsor a RIMScast episode either on our publicly facing weekly show, that's this show, or with a dedicated episode. RIMScast has produced special episodes for JB Boda, The Hartford, Alliant, Zurich, Highwire, AXA XL, Prudent Insurance Brokers, High Trust, and Aon. Links to sponsored episodes are on our show notes. RIMScast has a global audience comprised of risk and insurance professionals, legal professionals, students, business leaders, C-suite executives, and more. Let's collaborate and help you reach them. Contact pd@rims.org for more information. Let's talk about RIMS membership, folks. Become a RIMS member and get access to the tools, thought leadership, and network you need to succeed. Visit rims.org/membership or email membershipdept@rims.org for more information. And let's also talk about risk knowledge. This is the RIMS searchable content library that provides relevant information for today's risk professionals. Available materials include RIMS executive reports, survey findings, contributed articles, industry research, benchmarking data, and more. For the best reporting on the profession of risk management, check out Risk Management Magazine, the Society's official monthly publication. You can find us on rmmagazine.com. It is written and published by the best minds in risk management. My name is Justin Smulison, Business Content Manager here at RIMS. Please remember to subscribe to RIMScast on your favorite podcasting app. Email us at content@rims.org. Practice good risk management, stay safe, and thank you again for your continuous support.